decenter men, get hobbies instead of dating. It's all BS.
Decentering men are not needing a man. It's a lie. It's all BS, because women that say they want to decenter men, they secretly and privately crave so hard for a romantic relationship. Hey guys, how you all doing today? It's your girl Destiny and welcome to my channel. Hope you guys are doing fantastic. So this video is a video of a woman who came online and it has struck a big conversation, and for like it's really interesting conversation. She wanted to talk about how the dissenter men movement is like a BS, not like the dissenter men conversation is a BS, because a lot of women that comes out to talk about dissenter men are lonely and they desire companionship so bad, and they cannot say that that is it, because that is how human beings are created. We want a relationship so bad. So when women say they want to dissenter men, that is them projecting their insecurity, their loneliness, and that is not true. There are a lot of women that push that narratives are just like, you know what, because they can't get a good male, they can't be in a relationship, they are just pulling everybody, but deep down inside they want to be in a relationship. And she wanted to talk about how some people are not in a relationship because they are not desirable enough, they are not the beauty standard, and that can also affect why some people will also say dissenter men. Which this whole thing about the sentiment is striking a bigger conversation, and I'm here for it because I feel like we really need to get to the root of what we mean as women of decentering men. Because I feel like some people are getting it as like, when we say dissenter men, it means like we are men haters, we don't like men, we don't like relationship and all that. Anyway, guys, let's just get into this video. Let's go check out what she has to say, and then we'll come back and talk more.
Not intellectualize yourself out of the human desire to be loved, and that's why I think this entire like decenter men, get hobbies instead of dating, it's all BS, and it's coming from people who are too embarrassed to admit how lonely they are out of some like shame they feel for perpetual loneliness. I will explain. All over my For You page, and especially my Twitter, over the past like 2 weeks, people have been discussing this topic, which granted is a reoccurring topic, that like, you need to decenter men. That phrase should exclusively apply to not teaching girls that the best thing they can do in life is become a wife and mother, in terms of like, don't center your life around being an accessory to a man's dream, right? Like, you should have your own personhood. What it does not refer to, and what I think it's very detrimental to tell single people that it refers to, is this idea that like, you shouldn't prioritize like romantic love, right? Human civilizations across time, almost every civilization has prioritized familial love, platonic love, like the love between your friends, and romantic love. It's the stuff that makes up our fairy tales. It inspires our hopes and dreams. We are wired to want these things. Humans are social creatures. We're meant to live in community with one another. We're programmed to love and to be loved. And pretending like you can just watch these TikToks or like read a couple of books, get out of this human desire, is nuts. And it doesn't even apply when you look at the ways we treat the enduring grief that comes with not having the two other types of love besides romantic, right? Because if I say like, I don't have a family, my parents are dead, siblings, or I don't have a good family, I don't have contact with them, people recognize that that is enduring grief that I will experience for the rest of my life. We acknowledge it on Mother's Day, Father's Day, the holiday season. We hold space to listen to the stories of those who are hurting, even those who have found family. Just this idea that like, there is something so painful about not having anyone who's related to you or the people who raised you. Similarly, we hold space for people who don't have any friends. People talk about how traumatic and genuinely heartbreaking it was to not have friends in primary school. It's something that still like tinges when they're an adult. And then when people discuss how lonely they are because they don't have romantic love, then it's suddenly like, oh, you're so desperate. Oh, you need to get over that. You just need to get a hobby. Frankly, you should stop trying to pursue it. And it's like, why? And I never realized how hypocritical and cruel we were being to single people until I got into my current relationship. And like, I know that I'm gonna marry my boyfriend. This is the best relationship that I've ever been in. I'm genuinely really happy. And it made me realize like, so much of the advice that we give to single people is just absolute. People that a healthy, happy relationship is not something to want feels crazy, because if you are watching this right now and you are in a happy, healthy relationship, you know damn well that it's better than being single. even the best times that I had being single, because there's something about being fulfilled romantically. And it's not something that can be made up for with my friends or my family, even though I have very strong friends and family relationships. It's just not the same. And that's fine. Why do we meet people with such disdain when they say they're lonely, especially knowing the onus we put on women, especially to get partnered? This advice is never coming from people who are like either really happy with being single or who are in happy, healthy relationships. It's coming from people who are fighting back the tears when they're making these videos or giving out this advice like, well, actually, I'm fine with my state and you need to be too because I don't want to hear anybody else talking about it. Like, that's very much the energy that it gives. And I'll end it on this note. There is a particularly disingenuous way that we talk about people who have been affected by the lack of romantic love when they acknowledge that it's because they don't meet the beauty standard, right? Like, yes, everybody is beautiful, but we know that some people they meet a specific beauty standard, and the people who don't, you have a harder time dating. Why are you making them feel bad for saying that? A girl got on my For You page and she was talking about the fact she was a heavy girl. She was talking about the fact that her weight made boys not like her. I've never been fat, but I know that that's true because I see how people treat other fat people. And the comments were gaslighting her. They were like, no, like, oh, I can't believe this is happening. Like, you know damn well. It feels so mean, especially if you're a person who's like always gotten romantic connections or you've always been desired romantically, to tell a person who's never had that, who's like on the internet crying or in real life crying, like, I wish this happened to me, and be like, it's actually not that great. Like, you don't need it. Like, it's like looking at a starving person and then eating a hamburger and knowing that your entire life you've just like binged out of the most decadent foods and being like, the food's actually not that good. Like, you're fine. You don't need this. Anyway, the post-gym glow is like so real.
Let me know what you think about what she said down in the comment section. I'd love to know your own take on this. But this got a lot of people talking. And a lot of people responded to our video and have so much to say. I have a lot to say about this. For my reaction, you already know I have a lot to say. But I also want to know what you think down in the comment section. So please go ahead and share your thoughts. But yeah, thinking that some people cannot be genuinely be single and not be lonely, like, Anyway, let's go check out people's thoughts on this, and then I'll come back and share more of my thoughts on this because I can't wait. You guys know I'm very passionate about this, and I'm like, let's do this. Anyway, before we get into this video, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? Go on and smash the subscribe button, okay? And click the notification bell because we post video every single day, and we have amazing conversation here on this channel, okay? All right, let's go check it out.
Intellectualize yourself out of the human desire to be loved, and that's why I think this entire like decenter men, get hobbies instead of dating, it's all BS.
This creator Alexia is one of my mutuals, so one thing I am not going to tolerate is any disrespectful comments. It is okay to agree to disagree. With that being said, I want to speak about the essence behind decentering men. Decenter men is not an act in which women are rejecting romance as a whole, or at least that's not how I teach it. Instead, it's actually the opposite. When a woman is decentering men, it is her claiming and owning her own identity outside of them so she can receive romance at its fullest. If a woman is so attached to a man, she don't know who she is outside of men, always centering men, her conversations are all about men, men, this. How can she fully receive romance? How can she fully indulge in romance and truly enjoy being in that place without feeling a sense of lack? And that sense of lack comes from the fact that she doesn't know who she is outside of this man. So when this man wants space from her, when this man maybe leaves her, she's left with nothing. And then what happens is she begins to navigate romance, her future connections, from this sense of lack. Decenter men is us telling women, you do not have to navigate from a place of lack. You can navigate from a place of abundance and prosperity and a full knowing on who you are. So therefore, when you get into these romantic relationships, you can fully receive it and it feels whole and full and nourishing. That is what decenter men is. And that is the essence behind a woman finding her identity outside of men.
Is this idea that like you shouldn't prioritize like romantic love.
Okay, this is a great video, even though I do disagree with it. But the particular example that she uses, that if somebody doesn't have family and they feel lonely because of it, we empathize with them. And if somebody doesn't have friends and they feel lonely, we empathize with them. But if somebody doesn't have a romantic partner and they feel lonely, we don't empathize with them, and we tell them that they need to like get over themselves and find a hobby or whatever. I don't think that that's like a fair comparison to make. If somebody doesn't have a family, there's a very clear problem there. It poses the question of like, okay, who raised you? Who took care of you? What happened? You know, and I'm not talking about a situation where like somebody did have a family and then they had a falling out or something, because then that's like a very clear thing that you're mourning. But it's like, okay, who raised you? We're in foster care, whatever. If somebody doesn't have friends, it poses a very clear problem of like, okay, who do you go to when you're sad? Who takes care of you? If you have a procedure and you need to be driven home, like who's going to drive you home? Like, it's a very clear problem, right? If someone doesn't have a romantic partner, it doesn't pose a clear problem. What do you not have? And all of this is just really predicated on this idea that like romantic love is this like vital thing for personal satisfaction and fulfillment, which I actually think that the root of that is centering men or centering romance, which I think the root of that is capitalism. And just the fact that a lot of people experience chronic loneliness and isolation, and what we need is community, and what we are offered is romance. A romantic partner is not going to dissipate all of your feelings of loneliness and all of the problems that you have with community and having that need to be with other people. Yeah. But we're taught that it is, so we obsess with romance. And then romance is even taken to this level where it is valued truly more than family and friends. Hence the need for the conversation around decentering men, which I like to talk about this more around decentering romance. There is nothing wrong with desiring romantic love to a healthy degree. I sure do. And I don't even think the goal here is to transcend the desire for romantic love. I think it's to just not obsess over it, to not think that it's going to fix you. And it feels like this perspective of like it's equal to all these other legitimately vital forms of love comes from a place of like it's going to fix you. It's that necessary. It's that important. It's that much of a need.
Decenter men, get hobbies instead of dating. It's all BS.
I find this video really interesting because part of it brings up some pretty interesting points, and then another part of it goes into some really wild assumptions. And I'd like to sort of break those down. We can start with acknowledging that as social animals, yes, humans do need relationships and connections in order to live a fulfilling life. That's true. And romance tends to be a part of that. But it is pretty wild to see a video like this coming out like the week after a guy got on here and literally said women are going to have to settle because there's just not enough good guys out there. The people who are voicing their realizations that they're better off single than in a relationship are not coming at that from a place of like desperate copium. Instead, they are voicing like a statistical truth. Statistically speaking, if you're a hetero-romantic woman, you are better off alone. So maybe OP found just like a great person that adds a lot of value to their life, and they're living the dream, and that's great. But that is not the reality for the majority of women. If you're trying to counter the already subversive message that like romance doesn't need to be a priority and that you can live a life without romance, that is rhetoric that is putting women in danger, like directly putting women in harm's way. And that's not a joke or an overreaction. That is just fact. Yeah. And so yes, we do need to hold space for people who, you know, are mourning the loss of romance in their life, or maybe even mourning the fact that they never even had access to it in the first place. But I do think that we need to be very, very clear. Things like the 4B movement or decenter men, they are not in themselves critiques of romance in its entirety. They are a critique of the paradigm that romance exists under in our current society. In the simplest way, the 4B movement is really about women saying, like, however you feel about this romance thing, it's really not worth dying over. And at the heart of it, that is a message that everybody needs to hear.
You cannot intellectualize yourself out of the human desire to be loved.
No, but she's right, and she should say it. And to help further illustrate her point with a little more nuance, I am going against my better judgment and talking about my personal history on the internet. So as most of you hopefully don't know, I am a bi woman who's married to a pan man, and it's probably the healthiest relationship I've ever been in. The context for this, of course, is like she mentioned in the video. When I was growing up, I was definitely not of the beauty standards at the time. So that, coupled with the fact that I was trying to figure out my sexuality and I was in the closet, meant that I didn't have a lot of practical relationship experience until late high school, early college, after I had my first, sapphic experience of a homoerotic friendship that completely destroyed itself. If you know, you know. But prior to this current wave of decentering men in a conversation, which I think has some merit, there was the wave before that when I was in college that was essentially the same idea, but it was very much the strict dichotomy between all men are terrible, all women are great. And I believed that right up until I realized I was in a relationship with a woman. Again, this is my personal experience. That is not saying that every relationship that you have right out of the gate is going to be negative, but I cite the reason that I was probably in this relationship for as long as I was specifically because there was this idea that, like, if you're in a relationship with a man, obviously that's going to be terrible because he hasn't learned anything and he hasn't learned how to, understand the nuance of feminism. And women obviously were the better choice across the board. Forgetting, of course, that people are messy, unnuanced, and everyone has different levels of understanding themselves and understanding other people and willingness to manipulate people. But when the conversation becomes this strict in you're either this camp or this camp and there's no in between, it means that there is so much space for people who are still questioning or don't know themselves as well to slip into abusive situations, whether that's physically abusive, emotionally abusive, what have you. And so at the time, I felt even more isolated because I thought I should be happy that I was in a relationship, I was living the dream, and everything that straight girls would complain about as far as being gaslit or being insulted in like a jokey way, those were all things I experienced, but since I was experiencing with them with a woman at the time, it felt like at 22, I didn't have anyone who I could tell that would take that seriously. It's fine if you don't need the well of romance to be filled, but the idea that not everybody does, or that it's somehow counterproductive to revolution to want to be in love with someone, particularly if they're the opposite gender, despite what social norms tell you, like, that's not helping. Like, in those situations, you've done nothing wrong except want to be loved by someone who you thought loved you, and they had very different agendas in mind, but because of the way that we tend to view social issues, it can be really easy for some of those things to slip under the rug. It's not to say that a majority of problems don't happen from one side or the other, but to say that it's exclusively that side, or to act like people can't change and learn and grow, which is hopefully what people are doing when they realize that they have, like, there's nowhere for people to go after that. You understand that, right? And that's fine if you personally don't ever need to get into a relationship, but there's more to this world than just you having 50 hobbies. I have ADHD. I have 50 hobbies. None of those hobbies are a replacement for the love of my family or the love of my friends or the love of my partner. Like, they all fill different things. And it's very understandable for people to want that. And there shouldn't be shame in wanting it. Or if you have it and you have to break up with someone, it's amazing to me how quickly everyone who is believe all women will immediately turn on women and start saying, well, what did you expect? You expected to be loved, and that's completely understandable. A lot of this decentering men, get hobbies, work on yourself conversation is coming from a place of projection. So if it doesn't apply to you, don't listen to it. And as with every conversation, remember that not everything is going to be black and white. A lot of things exist in the gray.
Be loved, and that's why I think this entire like decenter men, get hobbies instead of dating.
I do see both sides. I'm somebody that I do feel like I'm ready for a relationship at this point in my life. That's what I want. I don't have no shame in admitting that. I will get it when it's ready to come to me. I also have noticed, though, when I focus on myself, right? When I pick up hobbies and do things that make me feel fulfilled, the desire for the relationship, it doesn't go away, but it dies down a little bit. It kind of fades out because I have other things that are fulfilling me and reminding me, hey, you could be happy in this way. You could be fulfilled in this way.
Entire like decenter men, get hobbies instead of dating. It's all BS.
Okay, so while I agree with this premise that like you can't intellectualize your way out of desiring romantic partnership, I do want to sort of challenge this notion of why does a woman desiring romantic partnership and romantic love automatically equate to centering men? Like, men also desire partnership, but men do not center women in that desire. But women are expected to center men and structure their lives around men, partnership, husband, being a wife, family, all of those things. So why do women exist within that double standard? And honestly, I think that's a better question and conversation to have than the one of, oh, decenter men or decentering men is BS. Because no, we should be challenging why a desire for partnership in romantic love requires women to behave in certain ways and act in certain ways. And of course, like, we can definitely point that to patriarchy and the things that the way women are conditioned to aspire to becoming a wife, a mother, all of that stuff, and like get trained in the labor of being able to reach those roles in a way that men aren't. But I feel like we're not asking the right things or having the right conversation. So I still agree with the belief that we women need to decenter men. I think that's a place that we should be getting to. And I honestly think to get to a place where women can like desire partnership and pursue romantic partnership with men without all of the conditions that presently exist, we will need to have some dramatic changes so that men and women sort of get back on an even playing field as far as dating, because right now women are sort of at a disadvantage. And this becomes even clearer if you add in race or disability, like, and if you add in like if black women only wants to date black men, you're at a disadvantage numbers wise, education wise, like you're at a disadvantage. So I don't know how you can get past that disadvantage without centering men in your life. And so we need to really be thinking about how do we even the playing field for men and women when it comes to pursuing romantic relationships, because as I said before, the expectations of women, of like the behaviors that women are expected to engage in order to get romantic partnership, or the behaviors they're expected to put up with in order to maintain and stay in a romantic partnership, is not at all what's expected of men. And so we need to, like, I do think decentering men is a good challenge to have. And I feel like we might need to get to a point where there's some sacrifices around what you will do to pursue your desire for romantic love if it's not getting you the outcomes that you want and the treatment that you deserve. And that's going to take some sacrifice. And I don't think that sacrifice discounts the desire for romantic love and partnership, but I still think it's a worthy one.
Love our take on it. I love to know your own take down in the comment section. As always, feel free to share your opinion. But please, here on this channel, we're allowed to disagree. So do you think decentering men means that women that decenter men don't want a romantic relationship? Let me know your own thought. Love to know what you think. So here's my own thoughts. Before I go, I like always telling you guys, I am married. I've been with my partner for 20 years. And yet I am telling women to decenter men. Like the last creator was pointing out, why is it that when they say a woman should desire for romantic relationship, it always has to involve centering a man and acting a certain way? But when it comes for a man desiring a romantic relationship, it has nothing to do with the man centering women in it. And I feel like this kind of panned out into the place where most men actually think that they are the prize, and if they are with you, they are doing you a favor. And this has made, my own personal opinion, this has made a lot of men to act and give the bare minimum in relationship and know that they can get away, because we as women, we've been programmed to be in relationship that does not serve us. And then I also want to point out that when we say decenter men, that does not mean we're saying that, oh, don't desire romantic relationship, even though I posted a video that they said romantic relationship is an illusion, okay? But that's another topic. That does not mean that as a woman, as decentering man, you don't have the desire to be in a relationship with a man. That just shows that you are not, like, I would say I have a man, I have a whole husband, but I decenter men. My husband knows that I'll be my 100% myself. I'll stand on business on the things I believe. I'm not going to walk or navigate life just so that he feels comfortable and know that why I displease me and what I stand for, who I am and who I am as a person. But that is what society for the longest time has inducted women into, where a lot of women actually feel like they have to be a certain way, they have to act a certain way, they have to get certain things ready, they have to like really act up this whole life, this whole thing just to keep a man, just to keep a romantic relationship going. And we've seen multiple times where we see some men and some women in relationship, and over time this man is not even ready for commitment. This man will just come and give you the bare minimum, and sometimes he will give you a shut up ring when you're making too much wrong, because he's really not doing much in the relationship. You as a woman, you're putting so much work into it. That aside, talking about everybody desire a fairy tale and clinical and all that, a platonic relationship. I get it. As human beings, we want relationship, whether it be friendship, a partner, we want it. It is what it is. But one question I want to pose out to you out there is that, would you rather have a relationship with a man, like have a romantic relationship with a man and get the bare minimum out of it in life and still not be happy in the relationship, feel miserable, feel lonely? Because a lot of people usually equate having a relationship with a man, having a romantic relationship with a man has not been lonely. But I can tell you for sure, there are a lot of women in relationship that are very, very lonely. But like I personally, what I would say and what I always tell people here on this channel and what I always advocate for is that we're not saying we don't need men, but what I want a woman to do is that heal yourself. I would say it, that's the gospel here. Do the work, heal yourself, love yourself, know exactly what you want, and know who you are. And that just helps the all type of things you stand for. A lot of women, they've not been able to heal themselves. They've not able to know who they are, heal their trauma, know what they want, and all they just want to have a relationship. And even when if a good man even comes, sometimes they can't even handle it because they have a lot of trauma that is making them act and respond to certain things. So they can't even be in the place of receiving. But when you are in that place of you know yourself, you know who you are, you know your value, and you're not just going to settle for just anything, just in the name of being in a romantic relationship. The type of relationship that comes to you is a different one. The type of environment, the way you navigate life is different. And when people say, people that decenter men, they are lonely. Are you kidding me? Oh God, like I said, when you've done all the work and you know who you are and all that, the way you exist, the way you love yourself, because at that point in time when you're very self-aware, you know who you are, you're very protective of the people and the energy you have around you, including with friendship and even including with family. You're very protective. So you're not just going to allow just anybody to come in, and it has nothing to do, you will not be lonely. Because the way you love yourself, the way you spend time with yourself is different from where you look out for other people to validate your existence and how you navigate life. But when you know the work, you know the people you have in your life, you have them in your life because you want them in your life, because they make you a better person. They bring the better version of yourself. Some women are in relationship. I just did the PDD video now. Some women are in relationship like PDD relationship with Cassie, just because in the name of being in a relationship, in the name of I can get out of it, they are just there. And that's why I said you need to do the work. Because when you do the work, the way you move is different. The way you speak up is different. And the truth is that a lot of these men, a lot of these toxic men, which there are a lot out there now, that they are disgenuine, they are not honest, they just want to get laid, they just want a woman that's going to take care of their needs and all that. A lot of these men, they can sense it. So when you're that woman that they know you've not done, or you carry that energy of you've not done the work, that you need that romantic relationship, these men, they capitalize on it and they give you risatisa. And that is not what you want for yourself. So what I tell young ladies, there's nothing wrong with wanting a relationship. There's nothing wrong with it. But go do the work yourself so that you know exactly what you want and you're not going to settle for the bare minimum. It's better for you to be single and living your best life than for you to be in a relationship, be miserable, be lonely, and question your existence, be sad, be unhappy. I can tell you, there's this joke we always make. My friends, they always make this joke. They said, I'm a married single woman because I live my life like I am single, even though I'm married, love my husband and all that, but I am still an individual. I know who I am. I move like an individual. And when it's time to come as a partner, I show up as a partner. But I'm not going to move. I'm not going to be a wife first, rather before being destiny. Anyway, guys, I'd love to know your own take about this amazing conversation down in the comment section. But please keep it respectful as always. Go on and share this video with somebody that you want to be part of the conversation, because that's what we do here. We have banging conversation. So go on and share this video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, smash the like button, because this helps YouTube to push out my content for more people to see. And that'll be you supporting this channel and this girl, yeah. Okay, so go on and do that. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Deuces.